number of years ago, I was leading worship for a small chapel service in a seniors home here in Calgary. And most of the residents on the floor we were on were dementia patients. So I tried to choose some hymns which I'd hoped would be familiar to them, songs like The Old Rugged Cross and Because He Lives. And at one point during the service, I watched as the staff helped one lady into the room, and she was awake, but the lights weren't on, if you know what I mean. Her eyes were vacant. They helped her to her chair, and she sat down and just kind of slumped over. And then at one point, she caught my attention because she started to sit up. And her eyes and her face started to light up. I think she recognized the song because she started attempting to clap along with me. And I started smiling a little bigger and singing a little louder. It was such a beautiful and worshipful moment until one of the other residents next to her, they leaned over to her and said, "Shush!" And she stopped clapping. She sat back in her chair, and I watched as she slowly retreated back into that nearly comatose state that she had been in before. And my heart broke. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I wanted to let her know that it's okay to clap during worship. But it was no use. So I kept singing, and I came to the final song, which was How Great Thou Art, which is one of the most beautiful and timeless songs. And about halfway through the song, I saw that she started sitting up again, only this time she was reaching for her walker. And I thought to myself, yeah, we've lost her. She's done. I figured she was so disheartened from being shushed that she just wanted to get up and leave and go back to her room. She stood to her feet. And instead of walking away, she started to walk towards me. And so I kept singing, and she kept walking closer to me until her walker literally bumped into my feet. And she stopped there, and she lifted her face, and she looked into my eyes. And she started to attempt to mouth along to the words of this song with me. And in that moment, she was no longer some nameless old dementia patient. No, she was a beautiful young woman. She was the daughter of a king. The wonderful spirit that was trapped inside this barely functioning shell of a body, but this song called out to her. This song called out a childlike response of praise, and it was all she could do to try to get closer, to try to find these words that she was sure she could remember from when she was younger, but she couldn't find the words. She couldn't find her voice, but she was trying the best she could. And then the most beautiful thing happened. She leaned over her walker and she rested her head right on my chest. And I looked over at my pastor, who was watching this whole thing. And he was at the ready just in case I needed a hand, but I was okay. And I wanted to savor this moment. So I looked over at him and I gave him a little nod and a wink. And I kept singing as I rested my head on top of hers. We kept singing. Then the song came to an end, and I lingered there for a moment, and then slowly lifted my head, and she straightened up a little bit, and I watched as the light in her eyes slowly faded again. And the staff came and they helped to walk her away. And I tried to thank her for joining me, but At this point, I don't even know if she even knew who I was or remembered what had just happened. You know, these songs that we sing week after week are a gift from the Father. The fact that even when our brain has all but stopped functioning, that a song can bring us back to a memory, to a relationship, to a truth about God. You know, as a worship pastor, I don't take that lightly, and I don't think any of us should. These songs that we sing can help comfort a broken heart. They can be reminders of God's goodness and love when we've lost all hope. They can be weapons of spiritual warfare. They can be an invitation to worship as a child. So let's keep that in mind. You know, whenever we gather together to worship, these songs we sing, you know, they're not just a way to fill the time. They're not just a way to get hyped up or emotionally involved. No, these are a gift from our Heavenly Father, a way to connect with Him and to connect with one another. Let's not take it too lightly. Let's savor these moments that we have to worship together.